All right, so today we're diving into a career that's pretty unique. Import-export manager in live animals.
Yeah, it's definitely not your typical desk job.
No kidding. We've got RoleCatcher's career guide and their whole interview guide, and we're going to unpack it all. So if you're prepping for an interview in this field, get ready for some serious insider tips.
It's amazing how this role goes way beyond just logistics.
Right, it's international trade animal welfare. Even a bit of diplomacy all rolled into one.
It's a huge responsibility making sure those animals are safe and treated ethically every step of the way.
And that's exactly what those interviewers are going to be looking for. Someone who gets it, someone who cares.
RoleCatcher actually maps out the whole career path too, so you can see where this role could take you in the long run.
We'll definitely get into that. But first, let's tackle those interview questions. RoleCatcher has 10 common ones, and we're breaking them down one by one.
Understanding what's behind those questions, what the interviewer is really trying to figure out, that's key to crafting a killer response.
Okay, so question number one. Walk me through the import-export process for live animals.
Sounds simple enough, right?
Yeah, but I bet they're looking for more than just a textbook answer.
Oh, absolutely. They want to see that you understand the process on a practical level, not just the theory. So instead of just listing the steps, bring them to life, you know?
I see what you mean. So, like, if you're talking about pre-export vet inspections, don't just say inspections. Talk about what you'd actually be checking for.
Exactly. If it's a shipment of horses, for example, mention specific diseases you'd be looking for, show them you've got real-world experience.
Makes sense. Okay, so you've nailed the process. What kind of follow-up questions could they throw your way?
They might ask about a time you had to deal with an unexpected delay, a shipment held up in customs, something like that.
Oh, yeah, those curveballs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So have a story ready about how you navigated that kind of situation. Highlight your problem-solving skills, your adaptability, how you stayed calm under pressure.
All right. Good advice. Question number two. How do you ensure the safety and well-being of live animals during transportation?
This one's huge. It's the heart of the job, right?
Totally. You're showing them you're not just competent, but you actually care about those animals.
So don't just say you follow regulations. Go deeper. Talk about specific measures you'd take, like temperature-controlled containers for sensitive species or choosing airlines with specialized animal handling teams.
Yeah, show them you're going above and beyond.
What if they ask about a specific scenario, like what you'd do if an animal showed signs of distress mid-flight?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It's a chance to shine. Explain your contingency plan. Who would you contact? What steps would you take? How would you prioritize the animal's welfare while staying compliant with all the rules?
That's some next-level thinking right there.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to question three. Can you describe your experience with customs regulations and documentation for live animal import-export?
Oh, paperwork.
I know, right? But it's a necessary evil in this field.
It's all about showing them you can handle the complexity. Exactly. Instead of just listing documents, talk about a time you encountered a tricky situation. Maybe a discrepancy in import permits between two countries. How did you solve it? What resources did you use? Showcase your proactive approach to compliance.
This is where RoleCatcher's AI tools come in, right? Their CV resume builder can help you highlight the most relevant experience for this specific job.
Absolutely. And their interview prep feature can analyze your answers to this question, making sure you're hitting all the key points about accuracy, resourcefulness, and attention to detail.
So you're not just winging it, you've got AI in your corner. Okay, question four. How do you manage risk in the live animal import-export process? That's pretty broad.
Yeah, it is. But that's intentional. They're assessing your strategic thinking. So break it down. Animal health risks, logistical risks, regulatory risks.
Let's cut it.
And then give a concrete example of mitigation strategy for each one. Like to mitigate animal health risk, you might talk about pre-shipment quarantine protocols.
I bet they'll also want to know how you learned from your mistakes. They might ask about a time a risk assessment failed and what you did to improve the process.
You're reading my mind. Have a story ready. A time you identified a weakness in your risk management and adapted. It shows you're constantly learning and improving.
Question five. How do you stay up to date with changes in regulations and laws related to live animal import-export?
This one's all about demonstrating that you're committed to professional development, that you're proactive about staying in the loop.
So more than just saying, I read stuff.
Right. I mentioned specific industry publications. You follow professional organizations. You belong to maybe even an online forum where you discuss emerging trends with other experts.
Oh, that's a good one. Shows you're really engaged in the field.
And what if you took it a step further? Mention the time you actually shared that knowledge with your team, like leading a training session on new regulations.
Now that's initiative. That's leadership.
And don't forget, RoleCatcher's AI has access to a massive database of industry news and updates, so you can be confident that you're aware of the latest changes.
Okay, question 6 gets a bit more specific. How do you ensure compliance with international laws and regulations related to live animal import-export? Things are getting serious.
They want to see that you understand the global frameworks. Think CITES World Organization for Animal Health Standards, any regional agreements that apply. Don't just name drop them, though. Use concrete examples.
So if you're talking about exporting animals to the EU, mention their strict animal welfare regulations and how you make sure you're in line with them.
Exactly. It's about showing them you can walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
Okay, we're getting the hang of this. Question 7. How do you manage relationships with suppliers and clients in the live animal import-export industry? Sounds like it's all about communication.
It is building trust, maintaining those relationships. It's crucial in this business.
So don't just say, I'm a good communicator. Give them something concrete.
Think about a time you had to resolve a disagreement. Maybe there was a delay in a shipment or a discrepancy in documentation. How did you handle it? Did you use clear, timely communication? Did you really listen to their concerns and find a solution that worked for everyone?
Those interpersonal skills are gold, especially when things get tough.
And guess what? RoleCatcher's AI can analyze your answers to these behavioral questions too, giving you feedback on how to make your responses even stronger. It's like having a personal communication coach.
That's awesome.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm feeling more confident already. What's next?
Let's dive into question 8, where things get a little more intense. Okay, so question 8 is, can you discuss a time when you had to resolve a conflict related to live animal import-export and how you approach the situation? This one really puts your conflict resolution skills to the test.
They want to see you in action, right? How you handle those tough situations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Give them a real dilemma you faced. Maybe a shipment got delayed because of bad weather and it put the animal's welfare at risk. How did you balance that urgency with making responsible decisions?
It's like, how do you think on your feet, but also stay true to those ethical considerations?
And who did you consult? What steps did you take to fix things? Don't forget to highlight what you learned from the whole experience.
Makes sense. Okay, on to question 9. How do you prioritize animal welfare in the live animal import-export process? This feels like one where your passion really shines through.
It does. It's your chance to show them you're not just following the rules, you're an advocate for these animals. So go beyond the basics. Talk about specific things you do, like using enrichment items in those crates to help the animals de-stress during transport.
Oh, that's a good one. It shows you're thinking about their mental well-being, not just the physical stuff. What kind of follow-up questions could they ask here?
They might try to challenge you a bit, like, what if a client wants to use a transport method that's technically legal, but you think it might compromise the animal's welfare? How would you handle that conversation?
It's about standing up for what you believe in, even when it's hard.
Exactly. It shows your commitment to ethics. Okay, last question in this set. Can you discuss a time when you had to make a difficult decision related to live animal import-export and how you approached the situation? This one's heavy.
Yeah, it feels like they're really digging into your decision-making process when the stakes are high.
They want to see how you handle those ethical dilemmas. Be transparent. Walk them through your thought process, what factors you weighed, who you talked to. Maybe you had to refuse a shipment because you were worried about the animal welfare standards in the destination country.
That's a powerful example. It shows you're putting ethics first, but it's also about being decisive, right?
Absolutely. And make sure you emphasize how your decision ultimately protected the animals. That's a strong way to wrap up your response.
Phew. We tackled those 10 tough questions. Feeling ready to rock that interview.
Don't forget about RoleCatcher's AI. It's like having a secret weapon. Their interview prep feature lets you practice these questions out loud, and then the AI analyzes your answers and gives you feedback.
No way. It's like having a personal interview coach.
Right. It can help you with clarity, conciseness, making sure you hit those key points that'll impress the interviewer.
That's incredible. And don't forget about their CV resume builder. It can help you tailor your resume to match exactly what the employer is looking for.
You'll be putting your best foot forward even before you walk into that interview room.
But acing the interview is just the first step. What about actually building a successful career in this field? RoleCatcher's Career Guide has some really interesting insights on that.
Let's break down those career stages they outline, from starting as a coordinator all the way up to senior management. It's a journey, that's for sure.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. What does an entry-level import-export coordinator actually do?
A lot of learning on the job. You'll be helping senior managers with the day-to-day tasks, getting documents ready, keeping track of shipments, working with different teams. It's all about mastering the fundamentals.
So being detail-oriented and eager to learn is crucial. What else would make someone stand out at this level?
Proactiveness being a go-getter. Imagine you're processing a shipment and you spot a potential problem with the import permits. You flag it to your manager, and you might even prevent a costly delay. That kind of initiative gets noticed.
I love that. It's about thinking critically, not just going through the motions.
Now let's jump to the next step. Import-export specialist. How do the responsibilities change?
It sounds like you're moving from doing the tasks to strategizing, right?
Exactly. You're involved in developing those import-export strategies, negotiating contracts, analyzing market trends, finding ways to improve things. It's about taking those foundational skills and using them to make a real impact.
So problem solving and analytical skills become even more important. RoleCatcher mentions an example of a specialist who negotiated better contracts and saved the company money. Talk about a win-win.
And as you gain more experience, you can use RoleCatcher's AI to really showcase those achievements on your resume. It can help you use strong action verbs and metrics to make your contributions pop.
Okay, onto the import-export manager role. What does leadership look like at this level?
You're leading a team of specialists overseeing the whole import-export operation. You're developing high-level strategies, making sure everything's compliant, working with senior management to shape company-wide policies. It's a big step up.
So strong leadership and communication skills are essential. What about that ethical decision-making we talked about earlier? How does that play out as a manager?
It becomes even more crucial. Imagine you find out a supplier is doing some shady stuff when it comes to animal welfare. As a manager, you have to make that tough call to cut ties, even if it means scrambling to find a new supplier.
You're setting the tone for the whole team, showing them that ethics come first.
And you can highlight that kind of ethical leadership in your interview using RoleCatcher's AI. It can help you really articulate your values and show your commitment to responsible business practices.
Okay, final stage, senior import-export manager. What sets those top performers apart?
They're the visionaries. They set the strategic direction for the whole operation, build relationships with key players, find new growth opportunities, and make sure the company stays ahead of the curve.
So big picture thinking, strong leadership, and a deep understanding of the global market. RoleCatcher talks about a senior manager who led the company's expansion into new markets. That's impressive.
And they probably used RoleCatcher's tools to showcase those achievements, making sure their resume and LinkedIn profile really stood out.
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here.
Cool.
But before we wrap up, let's go back to those ethical concerns that RoleCatcher brings up. This field isn't all sunshine and rainbows.
Definitely not. There are real risks involved with transporting live animals, and it's so important to be aware of those challenges to approach this work with a strong moral compass.
So what are some of the big ethical things that potential import-export managers should be thinking about?
One of the biggest is the potential for animal cruelty during transport. Those long journeys, cramped conditions, improper handling, it can all cause a lot of stress and suffering. It's crucial to work with companies that prioritize animal welfare and follow strict protocols.
Absolutely. Another worry is the spread of diseases. Animals being moved across borders can carry all sorts of pathogens that could be really harmful to human health, livestock, even wildlife. What can be done about that?
It's all about prevention, strict vet inspections, quarantine protocols, proper biosecurity, and staying up to date on new diseases so you can be proactive about taking preventative measures.
And then there's the exotic pet trade, which can lead to all sorts of problems. Illegal capture trafficking, threatening wild populations, contributing to animal cruelty. What role can import-export managers play in tackling that?
They can be real advocates for responsible sourcing by refusing to work with suppliers who do shady stuff, supporting sustainable breeding programs, and educating people about the risks of the exotic pet trade. They can help protect those animals and their habitats.
So it's not just about following the rules, it's about actively promoting ethical practices and making the industry better.
Exactly. And you can definitely highlight that in your interview. When they ask about your values or how you handle ethical situations, share real examples of how you've been a champion for animal welfare and sustainable practices in your past roles.
And mentioning specific organizations or initiatives you support that are working to improve animal welfare in the industry that would really make an impact.
Shows you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk. And don't forget, RoleCatcher's AI can help you present those experiences in a way that really grabs their attention.
Okay, so we've covered the interview questions, the career path, the ethical considerations. Feeling ready to take on this challenge.
This is a tough field, no doubt, but it's also incredibly rewarding if you're passionate about animals and international business.
And with RoleCatcher's AI by your side, you'll have the tools you need to face those challenges head on and make a real difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now go out there and ace that interview.
You're making it sound like this is more than just a job. It's like a calling.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's definitely not for everyone. It takes a special kind of person, someone who can handle the pressure, the uncertainty, the responsibility of making sure those animals are safe and well cared for.
RoleCatcher does a great job of explaining the skills and knowledge you need. But what about the emotional side of things? How do you prepare for that?
That's such an important point. You're dealing with living beings.
Hmm.
Each one has its own needs, its own personality. You have to have empathy. You have to care.
Yeah, you can't just learn that from a textbook.
Mm.
How can someone going into this field get ready for those emotional challenges?
Well, it starts with looking inward. Thinking about your own values. How do you connect with animals? How do you handle stress? What are your boundaries? What would you do if you were in a situation that went against what you believe in? It's good to think about these things beforehand.
I bet building resilience is important too. I mean, this job probably has its fair share of setbacks and tough decisions.
Absolutely. There will be times when things go wrong no matter how hard you try. You might have to make really difficult choices where there's no easy answer. Having a good support system and ways to cope with stress can really help you stay focused and grounded.
And at the end of the day, it's about being a voice for the animals, making sure their needs are met, that their welfare is a priority.
It's about advocating for them even when it's not easy or profitable. Pushing for better standards in the industry, challenging practices that are harmful.
And that reminds me of RoleCatcher's point about thinking critically about those ethical concerns. How can someone going into this field be ready to answer that kind of question in an interview?
Do your homework, stay informed about the latest research and best practices in animal welfare. Learn about organizations and initiatives that are working to improve things in the industry. Be prepared to talk about specific examples of how you would handle those ethical dilemmas on the job.
So it's not enough to just say you care about animals. You have to show that you're actively involved in the conversation and committed to making a difference.
Exactly. Show them that you're not just looking for any job. You want to work for a company that shares your values and is actively trying to improve animal welfare.
That kind of passion will definitely make an impression.
Mm.
So as you're prepping for this interview, remember, you're not just showcasing your knowledge of logistics and regulations. You're showing them that you're a responsible and ethical person, someone who cares about animals and is ready to be their advocate.
And don't forget the practical stuff. RoleCatcher's AI tools can give you a real advantage, helping you create a standout resume, practice your answers, and deliver them with confidence.
It's like having a whole team of experts in your corner cheering you on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Use those resources, and you'll be well on your way to landing that dream job.
Well, we've covered a lot today, from the ins and outs of import-export to the big questions about ethics and career growth. We hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and the confidence you need to nail that interview and start a fulfilling career in this amazing field.
Remember, the world needs passionate people like you to stand up for animals. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep fighting for what's right.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Good luck with your interview prep. And remember, those animals are counting on you.
Until next time, keep diving deep.